Hello and welcome to another one. Hope I'm not before you guys very long today. Um, Wanted to kind of give my take on a video that a couple of content creators shared. I guess the source material is an article by a Miss Rebecca Stevens. Um, it was covered by Chez Chardé, and Chez Chardé's video was covered by Mr. Z. So it's kind of like Inception, like we three, 4 layers deep. So this is a review of a review of a review, I guess you could say. um, to kind of put it, the long and short of it, I'll link the Substack that has the article that she was discussing, but basically, it is escaping me right now at the moment. Basically, I believe the title was something along the lines of, "Why don't black men protect black women in the workplace like white men do white women?" And when I heard that, and Shay did a great job going through the article, like it was really, I'll say, a little bit triggering, uh, especially being a black man who has been in leadership for a little while now, and just somebody who has endeavored to help others. The long and short of Rebecca Stevens's piece is simply this: that black men and women have an adversarial relationship in the workplace, and that essentially black men see black women as threats, and because they see black women as threats, uh, they don't. Essentially, they seek to sabotage them. Um, so I want to start here. One, there's not a lot of us in corporate to even begin with. When you're talking about corporate or white collar spaces, um, so when you talk about protection in that sense, to be protected, somebody has to be there. And by and large, black men are chronically underrepresented in corporate spaces, from top all the way down. Um, it's one of those things to where I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, with the S&P 500, there's like 279 corporate executives in the 50 companies that's in that index, top 50 that's in that index. 5 of them are black. It doesn't specify whether they're men or not, but it just simply says 5 of them are black, and actually, of that 5, 2 recently retired. um, so yeah, we we really aren't that prevalent in the workplace to begin with. And then when we are there, there are challenges that black men face that I believe really goes unappreciated. Um, a lot of times we have to don a persona to simply navigate through white supremacy without us ourselves being targeted. Um, you know, a good example of what I'm talking about is there are a lot of guys who, if you look at him at the office, you'll think, "Oh man, he's so happy. He's always cracking jokes. He's this, that, and the third." No, he's not. What's happening is, you could say, it's tantamount to code switching. Um, what's happening is brother man understands that this is a hostile environment to him, and he is disarming uh, the white society around him so that he can, to some degree, work in peace. That's something I've personally seen all over at pretty much every place I've worked. You're like, oh dang, dude is always jovial. He's always happy. He always cracking jokes, and it's like he ain't really like that. Bro, man ain't really like that. He just don't rock with them folks, and he just really want to be left alone. And he just want them folks off his ass. He just want to work in peace. That's all it is. So the second thing, um, she talks about the first time she had a black male manager that she was so excited that brother came in, and she said that there were conversations had around development with her white coworkers that were not had with her initially, and that it turned into him trying to hold her back for a position for sake of appearance and so on and so forth. I'll say this, simply put, they are bad managers. And I've had a few in my day. Sometimes they're white, sometimes they're black, sometimes they're Hispanic. It doesn't matter. Like, bad people come in all shapes and sizes and stripes and colors. Um, and once again, this is I have my doubts with certain parts of it, but just for the sake of argument, in good faith, I will say that it is gospel truth. There are a few things that even I have questions about, which is such as when she says development occurred. One of my questions is, did you ask for development? Did you ask what that development would look like? Did you define what development looks like for yourself? And that's not me trying to flip things and put those things onto her, but it is to say that every worker, if you want to be developed, you have to own your development. I'm big on coaching and development. I'm big on challenging and building skills, but I cannot do any of that with somebody who doesn't know what development for them is, doesn't have a goal. And it really strikes me as odd because even the way that she framed the story with him wanting to hold her back after working for him for 2 years, I personally have never been one to hold somebody back. I actually consider a feather in my cap. Is it a problem when you have a lot of turnover and things like that, people going to other teams? Yeah, it can be a problem. I'm not even gonna flex, but that's a good problem because it to me it shows, and every organization I've worked at has taken a similar viewpoint. It shows that you are a manager that can develop others. I talk about this in my first book, Business 101. I take a Jay-Z line from the Black Album and I flip it. People saying they made J, okay, make another J. And the way that I spun it was like, hey, you have to coach and develop and make more managers. Not saying that you have to make clones who think, act, and make the same type of decisions that you would, but you have to develop somebody that has those core competencies and the ability to do the job, because that is something that, one, reflects well upon you, but also enables your own advancement. If you're seeking to climb and move up, there has to be somebody that takes your spot. If there's nobody that takes your spot, I mean, essentially, that role is almost shackles to you. And the higher and higher you go, the more key you are to planning and decision making. And if you don't have a contingency plan in place, you might want to get one. um, and then finally, too, I want to circle back to the adversarial relationship. Um, I'll say this: like I've had the opportunity to work for several black men throughout my career, and most of them have been exemplary. Um, Whether it was, and it any of them somehow come across as, I'm gonna say first names just to give them shout outs and give them a little bit of their flowers. Whether it was Mr. Kojak, he ain't played that. He didn't take no shit, but he was somebody who very much I would consider a little bit of a mentor. He reminded me a lot of an uncle, uh, Ruben. He he taught me the basics of how corporate America would see my blackness, how I would have to maneuver, and even to this day, and he's frat as well. But even to this day, like I know if I need something or if I need to bounce something off of him, he a phone call away. Like love that brother. Uh, there, ooh, said also frat. Uh, I felt like we bumped heads a little bit at the beginning, and I think some of that was due to some personality similarities. But once we sat down and had a conversation and we talked through those few friction points, like yo, we were on the same page, and dude was somebody who very much pushed me, very much sought to elevate me. So much so that when he left and took another job, he blind CC'd me on the email. He recommended me to take his position. He basically said, "Yo, look, Dre and I have been having development conversations. I have given him steadily more responsibilities, and I fully believe that he's ready. I fully believe that you know he has all the tools, the prior experience that is needed to succeed and thrive in a position." And those are the types of guys, more often than not, that when I have encountered black men in leadership, they've been guys like that. And yeah, are there some assholes? Yes, I have one black male boss. I will simply say, like, yo, look, he dude was not. I'll just put it like this: dude did not listen. Dude was bullheaded, and there was a lot of beyond the professional. There was some personal beef there, and it just it just didn't work out. And that's just me keeping it as real as can be. Um, Beyond that, though, the one thing I can say is one thing that many don't appreciate with black men in leadership. Oftentimes, the environments which we have to manage in provides a certain level of stress and more confines for our position a lot of times. Um, so yeah, while your title and everything might be whatever, you don't quite have as much rope if you get what I'm trying to say here. Um, a lot of times you are judged very harshly should you make a gamble and it not work out. and more harshly so than your peers. And it's something that I've experienced and witnessed. Um, and that is something that I don't feel many understand nor appreciate. um, and this is my final point in terms of as she put it, that allyship and community and providing safety. Actually, this would be my second to last point, penultimate point. Um, a lot of times, and I want to be very clear, and I want to perfectly contextualize this. 95% of the sisters that I meet in the workforce, great young ladies. They very much um, understand to varying degrees what it's like to be a black guy in leadership, and just some of the challenges that you may face. And there isn't anything that I wouldn't do to help them. Um, there's a small percentage that I would say, probably like 2 or 3% is like, you don't get it, but you aren't in the way, if that makes any sense. And then there's I would say like a 1 to 2% that is extremely problematic. And what I'm getting at is these are the types that they lack accountability, they lack respect, they essentially, to kind of illustrate what I'm talking about, like in the past, like I've had an employee who they claimed that we weren't fair to them, but we were fair. They were asking for things that we as an organization didn't do, and that I as a manager also did not do. Um, but they were asking for exceptions to be made for them. And when exceptions were not made for them, then it was all of these like, yo, I can't believe this. Like, the company sucks, you suck. Like, some real reckless banter. And I'll be frank, like, in terms of gender bias in the workplace, that is really where when it first happened a couple years ago, that was really when I saw it. I was like, yo, bro, like if I talk to you, like, yo, I'm pretty sure we be strapping right now. Forget fired. I'll be fired. I'll be fired after, but like, it's like, well, yeah, just try to still manage them and manage through this. And these are a lot of times are the squeaky wheels who talk about the quote unquote shortcomings uh of their leadership, in particular the black male leadership and things like that. These are the type of people who, when they don't get their way, they they make it an absolute problem for you. And I'll be honest, a lot of times, you may have heard me say this before, but my grandfather used to have a saying. He would say, like, look, anytime you're in a room or anytime there's a story being pushed, you need to understand who's talking at you. And what he was trying to get with that was a lot of people have agendas and understand the source, because sometimes if you understand the source, you already know what it is. It makes everything else make sense. And that's kind of what I feel is the case for this Miss Rebecca Stevens lady. Like, just looking at some of the titles in her Substack, there seems to be a weird uh, it is I almost want to say fetishization of whiteness, but that's not quite the appropriate term. Like there's a pining for well, I guess I borrow Z's term for a ideal or a myth of white womanhood, which isn't really true. At least not true based upon the way they perceive things. This is what I'm trying to get at, and that's how this particular author strikes me. And the thing of it is, we as black people, we need each other. And by doing things that further divide us and cleave us apart, all we're doing is paving the way for the good old boys. Like I said in the video the other day, um, we have to advocate for one another, because there's not going to be a black America getting its slice of the pie by only investing in its women. It's not going to be a black America getting its slice of the pie by dating out. It's not going to be a black America getting its slice of the pie by everybody doing their own thing and trying to lift themselves up by the goddamn bootstraps. The only way black America has a puncher's chance of getting that slice of the pie is getting on somewhat of one accord and advocating for one another and building together and getting all this bullshit that we have ingested about society and ourselves out of our heads and actually putting boots on the ground and doing something fruitful. And articles like this, I find to be problematic. And I'm not knocking the sister simply for writing this and her experience. But what I am getting at, though, is she makes this emblematic of all black men in the workplace. And from my experiences, some of the people that will go out of their way most to help you are the black guys. Even myself as a manager, I am big on coaching and development. I make sure to ask all of my folks about development. I made sure to push my folks, try to find contacts that could help mentor my folks for the career paths that they said that they were interested in. I go out of my way to be involved in our ERG to make sure that there's equitable representation, not only for black folks, but to make sure that we as black men also get our piece of the pie. Because a lot of times this whole DE&I thing, it's a shrewd bait and switch, and I ain't letting them switch. So a lot of times when it's like, hold up, wait. What about the guys? you can do that for the chicks. That's fine. Hey, we need some we need some pie. Okay. I'm not opposed to you eating, but hey, look, I'm not gonna set the table and my plate just be clean. Like we go eat together. All right. If you get what I'm saying, you get what I'm saying. But I think that is truly the bigger question. Why is it that as a society, and this is it's something I would really like people with, if somebody stumbles across my video and you make it this far and you have that type of attitude and perception of black men, I just really want you to think and do some self-reflection. Why is it that any time there's a negative experience with a black man, said black man and said experience is representative of the 20 some odd million black men in this country? And not simply that person's experience with another individual. Just think about that. But that's my take on it. In short, to kind of summarize things, we aren't even in corporate. Well, oh, almost forgot my last point. The last part of it too that I can't believe I almost forgot this. That protection that she thinks a lot of white women get, I'm not sure how protected they are. In short, to me, it seems like, especially with the prevalence of the Me Too movement, there's been, I believe it's a New York Times article that points out that there's been over 200 men who have been Me Too'd. And not only that, the thing that really stands out to me and was on full display was during the last presidential cycle, where we, of course, know about Trump and all his dirty laundry. And because has run afoul of the establishment, he gets everything in the kitchen sink thrown at him. But you had people like Fuckboy Joe, who had some very credible Me Too claims come out about him. And what happened? The media apparatus circled the wagons around him and were determined to not let that story get legs or air. Um, so I, I would really question as a whole um, how protected these people are in terms of how she's framing it. Um, because a lot of times, power, money. I mean, these are the breeding grounds of corruption. But not only that, you have to keep in mind that um, Epstein is another one, Epstein Island. Uh, you have to keep in mind that a lot of times, as I framed it the other day, like the good old boys, um, there's a network of individuals who gives them cover, who helps shield and protect them. And those people are very hard to take down when they engage in impropriety. I would argue that the Weinsteins and the Al Frankens, um, I would argue that they were able to be deposed from their positions because not because they were going too far in anything, but simply put, they had ruffled the wrong feathers. Um, so, and there's other people who can probably go into this a lot better than I. But I'll just leave it there. Thank you all. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and let me know your thoughts down below. Peace.